Mars in Vedic astrology represents action, not emotion, not intention, action. It shows how we move, how we respond, and how we deal with life when something needs to be done. Without Mars, nothing moves forward. Ideas stay in the mind, plans never begin, desire never becomes effort. Mars is the energy that turns thought into movement. Many people think Mars is only about anger or aggression. That's because they usually notice Mars only when it's out of balance. But anger is not Mars itself. Anger is what happens when action is blocked or misdirected. At its core, Mars is courage, the courage to act, to confront, and to move forward even when conditions are uncomfortable. Mars becomes most visible under pressure. When life is calm, Mars hides. When pressure appears, Mars shows itself. Some people act clearly under pressure. Some freeze. Some react without thinking. These reactions are not random. They show how Mars energy is conditioned in the chart. In Vedic astrology, Mars represents Shakti, which means dynamic energy. Shakti itself is neutral. It is neither good nor bad. It becomes constructive or destructive depending on how it is used. When Mars is healthy, energy flows cleanly. When Mars is unhealthy, energy explodes outward or turns inward. One of the clearest signs of Mars imbalance is frustration. Frustration happens when effort meets resistance. Everyone experiences resistance in life. What matters is how that resistance is handled. Some people keep going calmly. Some lose motivation. Some push harder and create conflict. This difference is not intelligence or discipline. It is Mars functioning. When Mars is balanced, effort can continue without aggression. When Mars is weak, effort stops too early. When Mars is excessive, effort becomes forceful and destructive. Understanding this helps effort become regulated rather than forced. Conflict rarely starts in the moment it becomes visible. It usually builds slowly when pressure is ignored or boundaries are unclear. Some people address issues early, others avoid discomfort until tension explodes. Neither response is right or wrong by itself. The problem begins when action becomes unconscious. Awareness restores choice, reaction removes it. Mars also governs independence. Acting alone, taking initiative, and standing by decisions all require energy. When Mars is healthy, independence feels confident. When Mars is weak, hesitation and self-doubt appear. When Mars is excessive, collaboration becomes difficult. True strength balances independence with cooperation. Leadership is another area where Mars shows itself clearly. Leadership is not authority alone, it is the ability to move situations forward. Some leaders guide calmly and decisively, others rely on pressure or intimidation. The difference is not position, it is how Mars energy is expressed. Mars also appears strongly in competition. Healthy competition pushes improvement. Unhealthy competition seeks to defeat others. Balanced Mars competes with itself, not against people. This difference shapes careers, ambition, and personal growth. Boundaries are another Mars function. Boundaries require energy to maintain. Calm firmness protects relationships. Overreaction creates conflict. Withdrawal creates resentment. Balanced Mars allows boundaries without hostility. What happens after conflict matters as much as the conflict itself. Some people resolve issues and move on quickly, others carry anger long after the situation ends. Lingering anger often shows unresolved Mars energy. Awareness allows emotional reset instead of repetition. In Hindu mythology, Mars is known as Mangala. Mangala represents strength, courage, and disciplined action. He is not chaos, He is controlled force. Strength without discipline destroys. Strength guided by purpose protects. Mars is also linked with Skanda, the warrior who acts in service of Dharma. Skanda does not fight impulsively, he acts with clarity and direction. This represents Mars at its highest level, action guided by purpose. Hanuman is another powerful symbol of Mars energy. He possesses immense strength, but his power works only when aligned with humility and devotion. This teaches an important lesson. Strength alone is not enough. Direction matters. In the Vedic tradition, power is never praised without restraint. Mars must work alongside wisdom and structure. Mars provides energy, Jupiter provides meaning, Saturn provides discipline. Without balance, Mars burns out or turns destructive. Mars also governs the fight or flight response in the body. This is not symbolic, it is physiological. When threatened, the nervous system prepares for action. Balanced Mars allows proportionate response. Imbalanced Mars causes overreaction or shutdown. Mars periods in life bring urgency. Delayed decisions return. Avoidance becomes difficult. Action becomes necessary. When Mars energy is conscious, progress is rapid. When unconscious, chaos follows. Every action creates consequence. This cannot be avoided. Mars does not judge whether action feels fair, it shows whether action was conscious. Awareness transforms impulse into intention. Mars also governs ambition. Starting is easy, continuing is harder. Burnout happens when energy is forced instead of regulated. Balanced Mars allows consistent progress without exhaustion. Ultimately, Mars teaches courage in uncertainty. Life rarely offers perfect conditions. Growth requires movement anyway. When Mars is integrated, action feels confident rather than reactive. Mars does not act in isolation. Its impact depends heavily on where it sits in the chart. The house placement shows where action, conflict, effort, and courage play out in life. This is why Mars in different houses produces very different experiences, even if the sign is the same. When Mars is placed in the first house, action becomes personal. These individuals tend to act quickly and decisively. They often appear bold, direct, and physically expressive. If balanced, this creates confidence and leadership. If imbalanced, it can create impatience or impulsiveness. Mars in the second house brings energy into speech, family matters, and finances. Words can become sharp under pressure. Financial decisions may be bold or risky. Learning restraint in speech and spending is an important lesson here. When Mars sits in the fourth house, its energy affects inner peace, home, and property. This placement often brings restlessness in domestic life. There may be frequent changes of residence or tension at home. At the same time, Mars here strongly connects a person to land, property, construction, and real estate. Mars has a deep connection with the ground itself. It represents soil, land, foundations, and physical structures. This is why Mars plays a major role in property ownership, disputes over land, and construction-related fields. A strong Mars often gives the drive to acquire, build, or actively manage property. Mars in the seventh house brings its energy into relationships and partnerships. Here, Mars tests how conflict is handled with others. Attraction can be strong, but so can disagreements. Learning cooperation without domination becomes essential. Mars in the eighth house intensifies transformation. This placement brings deep internal change, sudden events, and strong emotional reactions. When handled consciously, It gives resilience and the ability to face crisis. When unconscious, it can create fear or emotional volatility. Mars in the 10th house strongly influences career and public life. Ambition is high. The desire to achieve, compete, and lead becomes visible. This placement suits leadership, engineering, surgery, defense, entrepreneurship, and competitive professions. Mars in the 12th house turns action inward. Energy may feel hidden or inconsistent. Anger may be suppressed rather than expressed. Physical movement, discipline, and conscious outlets become very important here. Now, an important concept connected to Mars is Manglik. A person is considered Manglik when Mars occupies certain sensitive houses. Most commonly, these include the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 7th, 8th, or 12th house. This should never be assessed from only one chart. Manglik must be checked from both the Lagna chart and the moon chart. If Mars is strong and placed in these houses from either chart, the Manglik influence becomes active. This does not mean marriage failure. It means strong Mars energy must be understood and managed correctly in relationships. A strong Mars individual often carries intense drive, independence, and assertiveness. If partnered with someone unable to handle that energy, conflict can arise. When matched consciously, this same energy becomes protective and loyal. Mars also governs competition and physical challenge. This is why Mars is closely connected with sports, athletics, martial arts, and physical training. Strong Mars placements are often found in charts of athletes, fighters, and highly competitive individuals. Sports require discipline, stamina, courage, and the ability to perform under pressure. These are all Mars qualities. When Mars is balanced, competition builds confidence. When unbalanced, it creates aggression or burnout. Mars therefore shows how a person competes, not just whether they compete. Some compete to grow, some compete to dominate. This difference shapes both success and satisfaction. When assessing Mars, always remember this. Look at the house to see where action plays out. Only then does Mars reveal its true role in the chart. If this section helped you better understand Mars, Manglik, property, competition, and physical drive, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying this journey through Vedic astrology, make sure you're subscribed. Understanding life through the lens of Vedic astrology.